All right. You trust that you have spiritual gifts and you're learning how to use them. And maybe you're doing well at it. Maybe you need a little bit more practice. But either way, it might be a little bit difficult for you to trust in what you are getting and to trust in your intuition, your psychic senses. And then how in the world are you going to trust if you try out mediumship? So today I'm going to give you 11 ways that you can start trusting and gaining confidence with your spiritual abilities so that you could become psychic AF. You know what? Let's get right to number one. And this one is not going to surprise you, but the number one way to get really confident and to also trust in what you're getting, spiritually speaking, whether it's going to be through intuition senses, through psychic and mediumship abilities, through channeling intergalactic guides, through getting signs from your past loved ones, all of these things is you're going to have to practice more. You're going to have to practice using your intuition, practice using your psychic connection, practice your mediumship, and then practice getting signs from your past loved ones. And so the more you practice, the more that you will see how it comes to you. And this is really going to help you after a while not doubt yourself because once you start practicing anything, it doesn't even have to be anything spiritual. You'll get so good at it that you can just start doing it like it's nothing, like it's riding a bike. When you first started riding a bike, it probably didn't go so well. You probably fell a lot. You couldn't get the hang of it. I know that I used training wheels forever when I was a kid. So the more that you practice, the easier it'll become because you'll be able to understand how it works for you, how spirit talks to you. And then you'll start being able to see that it is not your imagination and that there is more to this than meets the eye and that you cannot be crazy. Like all these things will start happening the more and more you practice. So if you're anything like me, when you start practicing, you're going to feel like you're making it all up. You're going to feel too that like, oh, some of this information that I get, maybe it's not detailed enough. Maybe it's not evidence enough. Maybe it's not good enough. Well, first off, stop comparing yourself to people's chapter 10 when you're still on chapter 1 or 2. Okay. I do the exact same thing. I'll go ahead and I'll compare myself to James Van Prague, John Edward, all these people who have been doing psychic and mediumship longer than I've been alive. So don't do that. And also, even if they are like Tyler Henry, who Tyler Henry is a famous psychic medium who is younger than me, but he has a different path. And so sometimes when I compare myself to these other psychic mediums and I'm like, how could I not be as good as them? Well, number one, they're edited. So you have no idea how long it's taking for them to get the information that they're getting. So that's number one. And number two, your life path is different. You're going to have more hangups or different hangups than the next person. So what is really easy for you might be really hard for me. And what's really hard for me might be easier for someone else. And you know what? The number one thing that I had a problem with was trusting myself loving myself, obviously, and then like really believing that I had gifts and that I could use them and that I was good enough. But the thing is that being good enough is subjective. So just like any other skill on the face of this planet, psychic and mediumship is the same way. So what I mean by that is who is the best cook in the world? Well, that's going to differ between person to person. All right. Some people might be like, Chef Ramsay's the best. Oh no, Wolfgang Puck is the best. There's all these different kinds of cooks. But the thing is, each individual person is going to tell you that they think this other person is better than this person and give you the reasons why. And the same thing is going to happen with psychic and mediumship. Oh, well, this person's better because they get a lot of names. Oh no, this person's better because they get a lot of personality. And it's not necessarily the people who are the best are the most famous. It's not necessarily the best people who charge the most. So that's the reason why that you need to let yourself off a hook a little bit, just practice a little bit, have some fun with it. And so whether or not that you want to become a reader, or if you just want to have friends with family, fun with family and friends, or if you just want to live spiritually, just have fun with it. And if you do want to read or you want to practice that, then go ahead and practice on some family members, going ahead and just having somebody send you a picture a day to tune into. And that is going to go so far in your spiritual development, I promise you. And the same thing goes if you just want to get signs from your past loved one. Practice is going to equal progress. So when I first started connecting to my past loved ones and getting signs, the very first thing that I can remember is that the signs were very far apart. I didn't get a lot of signs back to back. I don't think that I was even getting signs every single day. And then when I did get signs, it might be a little bit more like subtle and not as crazy as they are now. But the more that I practiced and the more that I was like, really paying attention and really putting some effort into it, that's when some of the magic happens. And so now I get literally like signs on demand for the most part, and if I don't get those signs on demand, then I am still holding this belief that they're not sending it to me for a reason. And so it's not the right time. They can't. I need to go on my own with this. If you know that poem about Jesus, the footprints in the sand, that's what I'm talking about. Because it's like, hey, Jesus, I only had, I was going through the toughest time of my life, and there was only one footprint in the sand. That was my feet print. Like, why did you leave me? And Jesus was like, I didn't leave you. That was when I was carrying you. So I absolutely love that. They're there with you, whether you realize it or not. But sometimes you're going to have to walk that path alone, or it might seem like you're walking that path alone. All right. The second way to really gain that confidence is going to be through meditation. I know it sucks. I know that it sucks. Like, I am not a meditator, but prayer is talking, meditating is listening. So a lot of times we have the problem with listening. And sometimes too, we are so into taking action, doing, going. That is a masculine trait. That is giving. And a lot of times we need to chill. We need to just have some peace and quiet and meditate, and we will get answers. We will get insight. We will get that connection like never before. I am such a good meditator when I do meditate. When I do meditate, I get tons of information very, very quickly. And I mean, I get information that I never even thought of. And then I realize, why don't I meditate? Because anytime that I meditate, I get like such amazing answers. So meditating can really help. I'll be honest, like, I talk about mindfulness and being more mindful throughout your day, but meditation is like the fast track. So if you want to gain that confidence, then meditating is going to help you get there faster. All right, so number 3 is going to be journaling why you don't trust yourself. Where in the world did this come from? Was it from a relationship? Was it from your parents? Were you taught not to trust in yourself because adults knew better, because so and so knew better? Do you not trust in yourself because you made mistakes in the past, because you got yourself hurt, because you were supposed to listen to your intuition because your intuition was telling you something and you didn't listen, and then look at what happened? So really taking the moments to really get out some of that energy and those emotions is really, really going to help you see if you have any of those seeds implanted into you. And that is the reason why it's super duper hard for you to trust. You have to trust yourself on a physical, earthly level before you can really trust yourself with some of the spiritual stuff. But then again, you might be able to do the spiritual stuff first, but you need to figure out why you don't trust yourself. For me, I didn't trust myself because I grew up with the frame of mind that everybody knew better than me. I was taught not to trust myself. Anytime that I had gut instincts, whether it was good or bad, I was told that I was just making it up. I didn't know any better. So and so it was not doing this, or whatever I was saying. I was always told that I was wrong, that everybody else was right, that I needed to respect my elders, that I needed to listen to other people, no matter how much heartache and trauma and everything else that it caused me. I was taught to listen to them. And so were you? Because that could be one of the things that is holding you back. Now, literally going ahead and just acknowledging that means everything. So you might be like, oh, now I have to heal something else. Not necessarily. Sometimes just acknowledging that and being like, okay, I got this and I'm going to change it. That can be enough to really help you get confident. All right, number 4 is joining development groups. So psychic and mediumship development groups. If you're into psychic and mediumship, if you're a healer, going to Reiki shares, pranic healing shares, healing hands, all that kinds of things. Obviously we have it inside of the university now, but it is going to help you out so much, because not only in development groups are you practicing your connection, but you're also watching other people connect as well, and they're practicing, and then you can make note of how they're working, how it works for them. Like in psychic and mediumship development circles, which we have 2 of them a month inside of the university, you're able to see it firsthand. You're able to see people who can connect really, really well, or really, really well one day, and then the next day, maybe not so much, right? But then you're able to see even like later on, and as you spend more time in these circles, you're able to see why they got what they got, or how they were really sticking to their guns. Okay, they were really sticking to the things that they felt were right. And I have had this happen time and time again in readings when people are like, no, 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 I have no idea what you're talking about. I go back in, I'm like, nope, I'm still getting the exact same thing. And then they're saying no, 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 no. And I'm like, I don't tell you because that's what I'm getting. And then, weeks, months, maybe even a year later, they come back to me and they're like, oh, now I know what you mean. And I've had it all across the board where they find out days later, weeks later, months, or even years later, how it made sense. Then now they realized it, right? So development circles are going to be also another fast track to get you confident in your abilities. And if you're anything like me, I sat inside of the development circles and I would just write the things down that I was getting. I was way too scared to say it out loud. And that is one thing that you really have to do, though. If you're getting something, try and say it out loud if you can, because it's going to get the energy moving and it's going to allow the information to come through clearer and faster. And here's the thing, it won't block you up. If you keep on getting spiritual insight and you keep on swallowing it and not saying anything, that can create blockages. That can also like stun your spiritual growth, if you will. So even if you don't want to be that person that is giving away spiritual messages to people, because, we can't do that. We can't just like go off and start, giving readings to random strangers. Writing it down will help. Sharing it with a friend who's not affiliated will help. Having spiritual besties, kind of like in the university with the community, sharing it with them, that is really, really going to help. Do not underestimate that. All right. Number 5 is going with your first impressions. This is one that you might have heard a lot, like even when you're taking a test where they're like, oh, go with your very first gut instinct. Go with your first gut instinct if you are proving it to be correct. Because oftentimes our first gut instinct is the correct one, but sometimes it's not. So I want you to practice to see if your very first gut instinct is the correct one, because sometimes it may not be correct. You might have to tune in. So the example that I love, love, love using for this is when my son was having an MRI done. Don't worry, he's fine. But I was going out of my living mind waiting for him because it was taking forever. And I just did my gut instinct. What time is he going to be walking through the doors? And I got something like 11:48 or something like that. And then I was like, that seems like it's a really far away right now, because I think it was like around 11 o'clock. I'm like, he's going to be in another 48 minutes. Like, I don't even know how I'm going to live. And so that ended up happening was I asked Spirit, I was like, Spirit, what time is he going to walk through those doors? When I look at my clock on my watch, what is it going to say? And I immediately got 12:01. And I was like, 12:01? Oh my God, that's even freaking longer. Like, I'm going to die out here. I'm not going to live to be that old. And, whatever it was, an hour later. And no joke, my son walked through those doors. When I looked at the clock on my watch, it was 12:01. I could not even believe it. But who in the world am I going to tell in that moment? At the time, I didn't have the university. I didn't have them to share with it. And my son could probably care less, and no one's going to believe me. But do you see what I did? I did 2 things. I went ahead and I got my gut instinct, and then I tuned in, and then I got the other answer. And then I waited to see which one was correct. And in this day, my first gut instinct was not correct. I had to reach out to spirit, to my spiritual team, and get the right answer. So you try that out. Okay. Is your gut instinct usually pretty good? Or are you the one that needs to reach out and get confirmation? This may differ from day to day, but play around with it and you're going to see patterns on which one is more accurate most of the time. All right. Number 6 is going to be using a divination tool. This is going to be your lifesaver because your body is going to change every day. It's going to be different from day to day. How you get information, how you receive information, how you everything information, okay? Because you have, your sleeping issues, and then you have how you ate, and if you're tired, if you're hungry, if you are annoyed, you have all these emotions going through your body. Are you not feeling good? There's so many things going on with your human body on a day-to-day basis that you may not pick up information the same way or as sensitive as you are some other days. So when you use a divination tool, you literally take your body out of the equation and you are using an external tool tool, which is freaking phenomenal. That's the reason why I love card decks, because no matter what I get intuitively or psychically, if I go ahead and I confirm with the card and the card shows the same thing, then I know that I am correct, right? Because the correct card will always, always come up. And so if you're having one of those rough days and you're using a card deck, use the guidebook too, so that you have no issues whatsoever. You are using the guidebook. You don't have to rely on your intuition. You don't have to rely on your psychic connection. But divination tools is going to help you with that confidence. So if I was just starting off, right, I would go ahead and I would tune in and I would get my information, and then I would pull a card to see if that card confirms with what I was getting. If you're also more advanced, this is going to help you get more details, better details. It's going to help you get more confidence in getting, how do I say this? Like more insight for your client or for yourself or for whoever that you're reading for. Because as soon as you pull a card and you look at it and all of a sudden one little detail on that card stands out, that could be just life changing. One thing that's coming up is when I was using the Food Healing Oracle deck during a reading. And what was it? I forgot what food it was that came up, to be honest with you. But I believe it was like something like tomatoes, some kind of weird, it was actually, it wasn't tomatoes. It was one of the more weirder foods. And I remember I told my client this, it was a phone reading. And I was like, oh, this came up. Let's just say it was tomatoes. I was like, oh, tomatoes comes up and tomatoes means action. And then she was like, she started to cry. And I was connecting to her husband in spirit at the time. And she was like, he loved that food. Like that's what he would eat all of the time. But it was something more rare than tomatoes. I'm going to have to figure out exactly what it is. So using those divination tools will really help you get the confidence to get more insight, to get more information, and to also have you be more confident in what you are getting. But divination tools, so you're not just talking about card decks, but talking about dowsing rods, pendulums, runes, crystal balls, all that kinds of stuff. Because then it's this external thing that you can use to confirm what you're getting or to get something completely new and different. It can be amazing. All right, so let's move on to number 7, which is affirmations. And, if you're anything like me, you like practical things that you like to do, and affirmations might not be your strong suit, but affirmations will help you create those synapses inside of your brain, those neurological pathways or whatever they are called within your brain. So you have probably been telling yourself, oh, I suck, I can't trust myself. It's just my imagination. Whatever you're telling yourself, now what will happen is that you will start to undo that, and you will start creating new synapses that will say, hey, I am a clear channel for spiritual communication. I am a badass psychic medium. I am all these things. Even if you just say it in the morning, at night, when you're brushing your teeth, maybe you say it when you're in the shower, but it doesn't matter. You just got to keep on saying it until you believe it. It's almost like a fake it till you make it situation, but there's a lot more to it than that behind the scenes, neurologically speaking and in the woohoo world speaking. So don't worry about the ins and outs and how it's working. Just try it and to see if it works for you, because it can go a long, long ways, and it can actually be really fast too. So use affirmations. Number 8 is clear the energy. All right. So what I mean by this is that you're going to cleanse yourself, sage your house, just cleanse it. Go for a Reiki healing. Join us for one of our healing circles. Get some of the stink off of you, right? Go for the walk, clear up the energy. And the reason being is because so many of us are holding on to past traumas, conditioning beliefs, limiting beliefs, all those kinds of things within our energy field. And so if we can cleanse that, then we can get rid of some of that yuckiness in our energy that could be holding us back, that could be keeping us from feeling confident and badass in ourselves and those kinds of things. There is certain sections of your aura that are for different, how do I say this, different areas of your life, like your manifesting area, and then for your past and for your dreams and your hopes and your wishes. Like there's all this kinds of little sections inside of your aura. And so if you're able to cleanse some of that, you're able to cleanse some of that stuff that's not serving you. It would be almost like therapy for your energy. You know how you go to therapy and like you talk it out with your therapist, and then you become healed and you get some of that yuckiness out of you and you start seeing things from a different point of view. It's kind of like that, except for like you're cleansing those thoughts, you're cleansing that energy out of your aura, and it's allowing yourself to feel lighter, brighter. And then also too, you might notice too that your thoughts are not so muddy and confusing. It's a little bit more clear. I can tell usually usually when I read somebody who has just had like a Reiki session. And it was so funny because I read this person recently and I was like, wow, I know that you said you've been going through some craziness, but I mean, your energy is so clean right now. I'm like, I feel like you have been doing lots of Reiki or you've been doing pranic healing. There's something like you're not doing anything. She's like, no, I'm not doing any of that. I'm like, this is nuts because you have one of the clearest energies that I have seen. Like, so whatever you're doing, just keep on doing it. But come to find out, she does Tai Chi. And not only does she do Tai Chi, but she goes to like these major events like across the country and things like that to do Tai Chi. And she had just came back from one of those. And I was like, oh, because Tai Chi is like a form of meditation, you know? So I'm like, oh, okay. So meditating helps, yoga helps, all that stuff. Tai Chi obviously does, and it cleanses your energy. So definitely try out one of these. If you have tried some of the other things and they're not working, this could be the thing that's really going to help you out. All right, the next one is going to be, this is going to be an interesting one. And one of my mentors told me this years ago. And so maybe it will help you. It says, take confidence from another area of your life and then put it towards your psychic connection. So if you are very confident in your job, what you do for work, if you're very confident in your parenting skills of being a wife or whatever it is, you're going to take that feeling and then put it towards your psychic abilities. So it's going to be kind of like a fake it till you make it kind of situation, but you're literally going to be like, okay, I am going to absorb this energy. So whatever you feel like in your day job or, whatever you're doing that you're really confident in, gardening, hobbies, coloring, whatever it is that you feel really good at, crafting, and you're going to absorb that energy. How does that energy feel? Like, oh, I feel, so confident and I feel like I can lift up a car and I have all the answers, yada, yada, yada. So then when you start going into either like your readings or your spiritual practice or whatever you're doing, you're going to try and channel that same energy and how it felt into this. All right. So that's what you're going to do. Feel it before you start any kind of the spiritual practice, and almost like I'm channeling it. You can even visualize it. So you can give it a color, so when I am doing, like bodybuilding for me, right? So when I'm doing bodybuilding, it's going to be this feeling. I'm going to give it a couple of feeling words. I'm going to give it a color, which for some reason green is coming up. And so then when I go down and I'm doing spiritual connection and things like that, even if I'm just practicing, having fun, whatever it is, I'm going to imagine those feelings. And then I'm going to imagine that green light and I'm going to channel it. It kind of goes hand in hand. That's one with the number 10 that I wanted to tell you about. I use this technique, and I mean, nobody taught me this technique. I just thought of it one day and it was life changing. I mean, this was probably one of the most monumental times of my life, and I need to do it again. And that is, I took the way that somebody felt about me and I pretended that I felt that way about me. And that gave me so much confidence. You have no idea. I was a totally different person for months and months and months. So you might have somebody in your life, whether it's your spouse, your child, your mom, your dad, grandparents, whoever it is. They could be alive or past, it doesn't matter. But they just thought that you were the cat's meow. They were like, yes, they are awesome. They are beautiful. You're so amazing. I don't know how you do all of this. If you need one of those people, I'll be your person, right? I'll give you all sorts of compliments. And then what you're going to do is you're going to pretend that is true, that is real. And not only is it true and real, but you feel the exact same way about it. You feel that way. So for me, it was my husband. My husband's always saying, you're so beautiful and I love you so much and you're so talented and smart and stuff like that. Okay, he's not always saying that, but I know that's truly how he feels. And so around this time, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to pretend. Just one day I woke up and I'm like, I'm going to pretend that I feel that way. I'm going to pretend that I believe him. I'm going to pretend that what he says is real and true. I'm going to pretend that, yeah, there's nothing wrong with my body. I am beautiful. I am amazing. I am all these things, and it changed my life. And it happened in little baby ways. So what happened for me was that I noticed that I was putting myself first. And you know how they say like you have to put yourself first? I did that. And it was awesome. So I was able to put myself first. So I wasn't so rushed to make sure everybody else's needs were met. Like before I would rush, I would just kind of tune in with myself and I'd be like, nope, I can take this time to put lotion on my legs because I noticed that my legs were dry. I was like, oh, wait, no, I'm going to need a few more minutes getting ready. Even though usually I would like freak out and be like, no, I have to hurry up. I don't want anybody to be late because of me. But I was like, no, I'm sorry. I need a few more minutes. And then they would be like, oh, okay, cool. And then I'd be like, no, I'm sorry. We have to leave now. Whatever it was, I was just pretending that I was this awesome person. I was this badass person. I was beautiful. I was the Angelina Jolie or whatever you want to be in my household for myself. When I went to bed too, I would be like, oh, sorry, honey. I know that we want the lights off right now because I know you're really tired, but I really need to like put this lotion on. I need to put my lip stuff on. I indulged more in self-care than ever before. And I felt phenomenal. Now, I was faking it. I had to keep on reminding myself throughout the day, like, Heather, you're this way. Heather, you're this way. When my husband actually took a picture of me, and I'll never forget it. It's not like a beautiful picture or anything like that. I was just looking down at my phone and he took a picture of me. He's like, because there's something about you. He's like, your energy is so different. And I remember seeing that picture and thinking to myself, oh my God, I look so fat. Like, look at this. Those pants are tight. And then I stopped. And I'm like, my husband does not think that way about me. And right now I'm adapting to how he feels about me. So what does he see? Oh, he sees curvilicious thighs. He sees that my energy was beautiful. He was taking a picture of me without me even looking at him and things like that because he felt like I was beautiful in the moment. So then I looked at that picture and I was like, I am beautiful and I have woman curves at a time and all these things. Like I was like, that is what I'm going to see. And it's so funny because when I look at that picture now, that's exactly what I see. So you have to just pretend that it is true that you feel that way. And then you can put this towards your spiritual life if you want. But here's the kicker. The more confident that you get with your daily life, the more confident you're going to be with your spiritual life. Your daily life, your physical earthly life, and your psychic life, they mirror each other. So one thing that I realized, and you might have heard me talk about this before, but I really wanted to get more names in mediumship. And then, what I ended up doing? I became better at names in my daily life. And then I got better names in my readings. So it was so funny because my coworker was like, Heather, you never remember anybody's names. And at the time, she didn't know this, but I was really trying to get some more names in mediumship. And I was like, oh, maybe if I work on my naming skills and remembering people's names in my daily life, I'll do better with it in readings. Bam, that happened. So if you are not confident in your daily life, we got to get you confident and then it will bleed on over. It'll mirror each other. But that is one way that I became really, really confident in my personal life was borrowing how somebody else felt about me. All right, the next one, number 11, we have talked about before, but I wanted to make sure that you do this. And it is for more than one reason, and that is recording your progress. So we kind of talked about it during the recent Psychic AF scavenger hunt, and that is your ego is stopping you from going down a new path because your ego is scared of new paths because its job is to protect you. So it's protect you mentally, physically, mentally, like all these things. Your ego wants to freaking protect you. It doesn't want you to feel embarrassed. It doesn't want you to feel sad or angry. It doesn't want any of that. It just wants to keep you freaking safe. So when you are able to record your information that you have been getting, like the times that you were right, then you give the ego a little bit of evidence to show him, like, hey, I'm going to be okay. I'm going to be okay. See, there's evidence now. You don't have to have it wound so tight. So think of your ego as like your overbearing father, that just won't let you do anything, won't let you go outside, won't let you wear mascara, all those kinds of things. And you have to like prove to him, like, see here, like maybe this overbearing father has a little bit of a logical sense. And then you can be like, here's A, B, C, or D. All right. So this is going to be okay. So that is the number one reason why I love recording your progress. And if I were you, do what I did. Like start from like your earliest memory that you have. Like I remember when I was a teenager, like I would have feelings that my boyfriend was going to break up with me and then he freaking broke up with me. And then I had a feeling that like something bad was going to happen at my house and I went to my house and the cops were there, So go ahead and even if it was from 10, 20 years ago, I don't care. Write it down. The times that you were right. And then anytime that you remember, write it down. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be chronological or anything like that. We're just getting the evidence down. And then anytime that you are right, make sure that you freaking write it down. And the other reason to do this is because you're going to look back on this with such fondness. You're going to look back on it and be like, oh my God, like when I first started doing readings. And it's so cool to look back on it. It's like a journal, but it's an even cooler journal because this is like your spiritual connection. And then you're going to be like, oh, I remember when I, connected and I drew that card and it made no sense, but now it makes sense. Or I remember when I drew that card and I was going through a rough time of my life and I pulled all these cards and I didn't notice at the time, but it said I was going through a major transition. And now I can see it. I totally did. Like when I first started my spiritual journey, basically in becoming a psychic medium, I was in Virginia and my job had sent me there, and I bought my first deck of tarot cards, the Archangel Power tarot decks. And I remember doing a whole bunch of card spreads, and I took pictures of all of them. But now it's really cool because I can go back and look and see those card spreads, and all of them are purple cards, which are all the major arcana cards. And it was like, oh my God, of course I was going through major arcana cards, like because they're major life event changes and stuff like that. And now I can look back on it and I'm just like, oh my God, that is just so freaking crazy that like how accurate the cards were. And then you can go back and just look at them and remember some of this stuff because you're in the midst of the journey right now. But when you keep on climbing over these challenges or keep on going down your path, you're going to look back and be like, wow, I went through all of this. Like you're not going to remember every single detail. So when you're able to record this stuff as the journey is unfolding, it's really truly amazing, and it's a lot of fun to look back. I know that when I started when my development circle, I didn't get things ever, 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 ever. And all these people, when they connected to me, they got like, oh, you're such a spiritual teacher and leader. And there was this one woman at the circle who was like, you she's like, "You're so powerful. I'm gonna cry." And I remember being like, "Me? I'm so powerful. I'm gonna go. Oh my God, that's so cool." And I remember just being like, "Oh, I just feel the sensation in my hands, and that tells me that you're a healer." I still have all of the notebooks that I used for my development circles all those years ago, and I was in the circle for a very long time until I moved back up here to Michigan. And that's when I created my own circle, right? But it's so cool to look back on that and to see, how far that I've come. And I know that you're going to absolutely love it too when you look back on your journey. So make sure that you record it. It's going to help you become confident in the short term and also freaking in the long term. All right. So I hope that you loved these 11 ways. I would love to know which one that stood out to you because this is really going to help you become confident AF in your spiritual abilities, your psychic abilities, but also in your life. All right. Until next time, I hope that you live a spiritual AF life.